All right. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I want to finish up just a few comments about this, because I think it's important. The Holy Man. Now, we talked last week about the importance of the whole and various, so I'm not going to circumscribe the bush again. I'm going over that. We've already talked about that in various places where this appears in the Gospel of John and its relationship and relevance, and so on. And we said we wanted to look at this particular expression, especially as it relates to Nietzsche. One of the most influential philosophers in the modern period, and certainly has had a tremendous revival recently in philosophical circles. He was greatly influenced by Ludwig Feuerbach, whose name in German means Ludwig means famous fighter, or one who is a famous combatant. He knows how to fight and will fight ultimately to the end. And Feuerbach means burning down, obliterating through fire. So he is the fighter who obliterates. And it's really Feuerbach in his book, The Essence of Christianity, that Feuerbach is really the driving force behind modern atheism. And he greatly influences Nietzsche. And he has an even greater influence on Karl Marx. Marx started out as a Hegelian. Started out as a Hegelian. There were two groups of Hegelians. There were the right-wing and the left-wing Hegelians. And he started out as a right-wing kind of Hegelian, then became a left-wing, and then he took Hegel's method, that is, the method of the dialectic. The dialectic. Talked about that. Let's refresh your mind. Thesis, antithesis, and the synthesis. And for Hegel, this was the method by which one could understand where history was going. And with that, of course, human existence. Because history has a goal and an end. And for Hegel, the Geist, or the world spirit, is moving toward the end. All history is moving towards becoming more and more rational and more free. Hegel famously says, the real is the rational and the rational is the real. Now, you look around your world and you say, oh, there's nothing rational about this crazy world. And Hegel would say, well, the problem is you're standing in the present. This is unfolding. And the fact that you don't see it doesn't mean it's not developing. It's becoming more and more rational through the world spirit, world Geist, which can be interpreted as God. So the thesis of this, as we indicated, is being. The antithesis of being is what?
Not being.
Non-being, good. And the synthesis of this is becoming. And the end of this is becoming is more and more rational and free. Rationality and freedom. And this is where the world spirit, God if you want, this is where history is moving. Towards the rational is the real, and the real is the rational. It may be irrational now, but it's unfolding. It's coming. And so what you have to do is take the long view. You may not be around to see it, but it's becoming that way. It's
becoming that way. Well, this clash between the thesis and the antithesis, between being and non-being, for Hegel, this is Hegel, into becoming this. Marx says, I love the method. I love this this Hegelian methodological approach. Taking history and place it into thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. I love it. What I hate about it is why you have that kind of Bambi in the headlight look on your face. It's very abstract. It's very ethereal. You know, being, non-being, the world spirit, and all. Marx says he's got the right method, he's just got the wrong things plugged in. In other words, Marx says famously to all of the Hegelians, very simply, philosophy doesn't bake the bread. Philosophy doesn't bake the bread. What do you think he means by that? Did you want him to be a baker?
You need reality to come, you need something concrete to carry it forward.
Yes. This is the historical materialism of Marxism. Historical materialism. In other words, the thesis for Marx is, of course, the proletariat. Who are the proletariat? Proletariat is another name for what class of people?
Workers.
The workers. Very good. That's right. They're the workers. What's the antithesis of the workers?
The bourgeoisie.
Very good. The bourgeoisie. Very good. That's right. So, workers and owners. This is the bourgeoisie. History is going to reach a flexing point. This is Marx. It's going to reach a flexing point in which there is going to be, because he begins the Communist Manifesto by saying, all human history is understood as what?
With the fight between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie.
Very good. All history comes down to class warfare between the owners and the workers, the proletariat and the bourgeoisie. That's what history is. History is the conflict. History is conflict driven by these two. This is driven by being and non-being. Whatever that means. Marx is going, well, whatever that means. And go, you know, up there somewhere, I suppose. And this becoming, you know, my God, by some world spirit and all that. Marx says, stop all that. You got the right method. You got to get back to earth, buddy. Okay, get down to the realpolitik. And it is this: the resolution of the bourgeois to the with the proletariat yields what? What is the goal?
Classless society.
Very good. Classless society. Very good. Don't worry about Roy. He's a late starter. For all of you that are back there pulling for Roy, just hold on. I see that now. This is the classless society. Okay? Poor Roy. What about poor me? I gotta put up with this, okay? I love this sympathy. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. All right.
No mercy.
So we have the classless society. Okay? And this classless society in which each according to his ability, according to his need and means and all of this kind of stuff. Now, This will be the perfect. This is the perfection. Hegel's up here with his reason and his rationality and his freedom. Marx is down here. This is Marx's apocalyptic vision. His apocalyptic vision, completely rational and free. The classless society. There'll be no have and have-nots. It'll be perfect justice, perfect equality. It'll be perfect peace. Because there'll be no more resentment, no more envy, no more greed. There'll be none of this kind of stuff. And this will take place because there's going to be a great apocalyptic battle. But it's not going to be cosmic. It's not going to be fought up there, somewhere. God knows where that is. It's going to be fought right here on terra firma. And it's going to be between these two groups that are going to rise up. The owners are going to protect what they have, and the bourgeois and the proletariat, they are going to fight for an equal share of this in terms of the means of production, because history is driven by conflict in terms of economics, and for Marx, this is the gasoline that moves the engine of history forward. This is or for those of you that are more avant-garde, it is your Elon Musk battery-driven car that I hope you can find a station to get one in. Not really, because you won't. Anyway, so you have that classless society, and this will be the goal at the end of history. Now, Christians, Catholics, can never buy this. Can never buy this. Because the goal of history, according to Marx, is not reconciliation. The goal of history is driven by revolution, by whatever means necessary in order to achieve this. So there's not, the engine that drives this is economic forces in worldly terms, driven in history. This is more open to, because Hegel was a Christian, a deep Christian, and that this would be a kind of heaven, if you will, if you want that, in which the Spirit, Holy Spirit, whatever spirit you want, will be driving history towards that which is more rational and free, so that there will indeed be peace, justice, there will be community, there will be all of those things, because we will come to that age of true enlightenment when we don't have to have these conflicts anymore. Well, there ain't any of this. We will all be happy. Or blessed, whatever you want. Marx finds this totally repulsive. And the driving engine behind that philosophically is Ludwig Feuerbach, which I'm not going to get into because that'll take me too far afield. But you should look up Feuerbach, because Feuerbach is really the father of modern atheism. And modern atheism is a qualitatively and quantitatively different atheism than has ever appeared in human history. And you can go all the way back to the Bible. It's radically different. Atheism means what?
Anti-God.
What is that?
Anti.
No, you're jumping ahead.
Oh,
It's a wonderful
sorry.
answer, but to the no. What does atheism mean?
Against
No.
theism.
No.
No
God.
faith. Or
No
no
religion?
Theism means what?
God.
No God. Fine, no God. Okay. Well, pardon me if I yawn at that. So what? That's been around since the Bible. That's not a problem. Feuerbach introduces not this. He says this is milk toast, phony, stupid stuff that doesn't amount to anything because nobody really cares about it anymore. Okay, there's no God. Fine, move on. Feuerbach says no, that's the problem because you're always going to have a bunch of people running around who believe in God. That's the problem. You know. So that's a problem. These people who still, as soon as something goes wrong, they drop on their knees, they pull out their rosaries, and they begin praying. You know what I mean? Okay. For Feuerbach, it is an anti-theism. Anti means what?
No.
No. Against. Very good. Against. Theism?
God.
There's a world of difference between saying there is no God and talking about against God. Because you see, for the first time, it has been articulated philosophically that not only does God not exist, but the very idea of God is what robs you of being a fully alive, good human being, and therefore God is a thief who has stolen from you, and you have freely given every good and noble and wonderful thing about human beings. What have we done? We've thrown it up there and said, that's God. Tell me a virtue that you admire. A virtue that you admire.
In whom?
What's that?
In whom? Virtue.
A virtue in the abstract. A virtue. Name me a virtue.
Faith.
Faith. Okay, can you name me another virtue?
Love.
Love. Okay, love. Love is a virtue. Okay? Fine. Very good. Now, what have we done? What have we done with, how have we given that up? 3 words.
God.
God,
Love.
love, that's 2. It's got a middle word.
Faith.
No. God, love.
God is love.
Very good. It's in the Bible. Well, yeah, it's in the Bible. God is love. But not only is God love, God is what?
Is all being. He's everything. Everything that is created.
Omnipresent.
No.
What is God in relation to love?
This is love.
Well, when you say God is love, what are you saying? By saying is.
That he exists. That he
Pure
is.
what?
Pure good,
That's his essence.
Pure what?
good.
Pure love.
Pure love.
Pure love. God is not only a lover, God is love. God is the perfection and fullness of love. Name me another virtue.
Truthfulness.
Truth. God not only tells the truth, God is what?
Is truth.
God is truth. Is,
Yes.
essay, being. God is the fullness, the perfection, and the height of being. In other words, when you talk about God, you are talking ontologically. You are saying the very being of God is that. That's big. That's much more important than saying, Jim here, Jim tells the truth. Oh, great. Okay, fine. Wonderful. Believe it or not. Okay. Well, he tells you. You may have caught him on a good day. He managed to say something truthful. Okay, fine. But when you say God is truth itself, the fullness of truth. In God, there can be no what?
Deceit.
No deceit, no lie, no falsehood. No falsehood. And if we go back to faith, God is not simply faithful, God is what?
True. I mean, he's
the whole of everything. You
We're
know,
talking about faith. Truthfulness becomes truth. Well, what would faithfulness become?
faith.
Faith itself. Faith in its being. The fullness of truth. The fullness of faith. The fullness of love. You see? Jim's instance of telling me something true is what we call an ontic, O-N-T-I-C, an ontic aspect. That is, it's an instance of him. It's an instance, okay? But it's not ontological. It's not in itself. This is an instance of him telling me that. Okay, big deal. But if I say Jim is an ontologically truthful person, I'm saying something much deeper than that. I'm saying at the core of his being is the telling of truth. And if that's the case, when John tells me, or when Jim tells me something, what do I know then? What do I know?
That it's fact. It's true.
That it's truth, not fact. There's a difference between
Yes.
truth and fact. Tell you a lot of facts and never tell you the truth. People are very good at that. Huh? Tell you a lot of facts. Put on your computer, you get a lot of truth, a lot of facts. That shows truth. In other words, this makes God what in relation to man?
All being. He's all being.
Anti-God.
With
Therefore,
God.
what is God's relationship to man?
The anti-man.
His enemy.
Very good. He's the enemy. God is the enemy. Well, read Paul's letter to the Romans. Well, read the letter to the Romans. Paul says, we know that God has love for us, that while we were yet sinners, enemies of God, what did God do?
He sent his only son.
He sent his only Son, that we might be forgiven and have life. We, the enemy of God, they flip it. God flips it and says, no, the enemy of man is God. Because God takes everything that belongs to us, brings it into himself, because we give it. We give it. We have this need to give. If only we could get this God stuff out of here, and we took all of that to ourselves, just think what we would be, which is what? If I could take everything that I'm giving to God and put it into myself, what will I be?
God.
Yes, I'll be God's. Go back to the beginning of Genesis. What is the temptation?
To be the God. To be a God.
You are. See, you're going to make connections, folks. Connections. Leave it there. Connections. Okay? That's really important. That's really important. Look, don't get annoyed, okay? Let me get annoyed. The whole point is that the idea of making these connections is also for your mind to begin to see how, because today, especially today, our minds tend to be all compartmentalized and disconnected, and especially when you read the scriptures, it's very important to have that view. What is this one thing here telling me about something else? Now what could that be? So when I make those connections, I see how they fit. It gives you a tremendous different understanding of Christmas, of Easter, of all the great things, because you see how they're connected. So, what then does Nietzsche famously say or infamously say in the Antichrist, Zarathustra, and in Ecce Homo? 3 words.
God is dead.
God is dead. And
And God has to die if you want to live as a true human being. Because you are giving everything that makes you great and wonderful and terrific. You are projecting that, as Feuerbach says, into some cosmos up there, into one of these phantom things up there, illusory, and saying, oh, that's God. That's God. And all the while, we are denying what is most noble, good, powerful, and terrific in ourselves. That's what we're doing. We are giving it over to this phantom up there. And as soon as we can come, and how will we do that? How will we do that? Well, we will do that by act of the will. You have to will it. You have to will the death of God. As one of the early atheists said, even if you could prove to me by mathematics and science that God exists, I will not believe it, because I am training my will to believe and to want and to do all I can to kill God. Because that is the only way in which we will become fully human. The only way you will become fully human is to stop all of this giving of what is best in you, what is great in you, what is true and noble. Stop giving it away. You're giving away your treasure, your greatness, your nobility into this God by projecting it. You're projecting it up there. And up there, it is void, it is lifeless, and it doesn't answer. Man must free himself from God. Must free himself from God. That's the radicalism of modern atheism. Not only is there no God, but God is the enemy. And what must you do when you confront an enemy?
Kill it.
God is dead. And until we evolve to that point where we have come to having killed God, we're going to continue to live a mess. Unhappy, incomplete, everything, so on and so forth like that. The more and more we can kill off God, the more and more human we will become. Well, I'll leave it to your good judgment as to whether or not history, especially recent history, happens to bear that out. But we're not critiquing it now. But this is what he's saying. This is what he means. And Nietzsche asked the question, who killed God? Who killed God? We did. We did. Every human being who wants to live a fully human life, your responsibility is to kill God. That's your responsibility. You love your family? Kill God. Every time you go to church, you're perpetuating an enslavement of your family. Because you're saying, we're going to worship this God. Instead of fostering all that is noble and good and wonderful and terrific in human beings, you are giving it away. Giving it away. Worshiping God. What is that? What are y'all doing? What is that stuff? You should be developing yourself to your fullest. Take all of the wonderful things and qualities that's in humanity and stop squandering it. Stop giving it away. Develop it. See? If you truly love the person, you would take all those crosses, all those prayers and all that kind of stuff. Stop all that, please. Get down to the business of developing what is best and noble and terrific in yourself. You say, well, that's crazy. Nobody believes that stuff. Really? Have you ever walked through Barnes and Noble and ever turned on a computer? Go to your Amazon or whatever the thing is. Amazon is an interesting word, by the way, which I won't go into because some of you will be offended by the word. So, and I don't want to get into it. So, okay, I'm in enough trouble as it is. So, leaving that aside, and some of the largest entries into Amazon and in the Barnes and Noble places, so on and so forth, are all of these programs on self-development, self-fulfillment, self-perfection. And you go read them, and you go listen to them, and you write down how many times God, Jesus, church are mentioned. You won't have to worry about your big pen running out of ink. Let me assure you of that. No. It's all cynical. Do the people who do this know who Feuerbach is? Please. Nietzsche, Bauer, Strauss, Marx. I probably think it's Groucho. None of that. It seeps into the culture. It's a kind of implicit atheism. It's a kind of implicit atheism. When, for example, try this. Ask in the coming week. Ask 25 people you know. Ask 25 people. And just kind of off the cuff and everything. Say, oh, could I borrow your rosary for a minute? And then ask them, could you borrow their cell phone? And tell me, how many people have rosaries and how many people have cell phones that they carry with them? Would die if they lost the thing. Turn the car around and go back. My whole life is on the thing. My God, you better get a new life. Oh, say, that's the sum of your life. You're really in bad shape. But no, that's the thing. But ask yourself that. Ask yourself when the hurricane was coming here or whatever it was, how many people fell on their knees? How many people prayed to Prompt Succor? I'm not talking about force feeding you in church with all this. Well, we have not petitions. Let's see. Now, oh, it's good. Oh, well, it's still in October, so we better say it, and so on and so forth. And it runs off like water on a Louisiana duck's back. Other than when it's coming here. There's more people run to the store than run to church or the gasoline station. It's a kind of practical atheism. And who are the high priests? The high priestess of the meteorologist. That they become the clergy. And everybody has their little church and their little pope. Why those people are allowed on the air, I have no idea. Because if you actually watch them, they make you so afraid and so wild and crazy that it's amazing to me that they have a license to do that kind of stuff because of what they do to people, especially those who don't have social resources, those people who are isolated or live alone, those people who are aged or infirmed or whatever. If you watch that for about 5 seconds, you can really begin to become unhinged. But watch this one. You know, and when you look at it, it looks like an Italian drew it, huh? You see all the spaghetti lines that go, huh? This way, this model, that model, that. There's so many models, and they're all going here and there, and so on. It's amazing looking thing. Huh? And it usually ends up going there. But anyway, doesn't matter. It's that kind of stuff now. Practical atheism. A kind of God in the tabernacle until I need him. And Nietzsche and Feuerbach would say, yes, see, that's what we got to get rid of. That's what we got to get rid of. But as long as that's around, God is still roaming around somewhere. We got to get rid of it. We got to get rid of it. You know, he's a vagrant. You know. So their goal is that. That's the goal. Materialism, historical determinism, driven by a godless society in which man becomes God because he takes back what is rightfully his from the God that he gave it to, the non-existent God. And we each become gods unto ourselves. And you have people that walk around like that. They're gods unto themselves. Okay, now, back to this. That's some of the background into all of this. Behold the man. Now, man up there, capital A, capital N, and a small n. Now, behold the man. Is he talking about male? Talking about mankind? But he says, behold the man. Behold this guy. Who is the guy?
Jesus.
Jesus. Huh? Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Look, we're back to Pilate. Pilate, Jesus. So there's only two choices. Okay, so there we are. So we have Jesus and Pilate. Pilate looks at Jesus and he says what?
Behold the man.
Behold the man. Now the question is, we already talked about the man. The is what kind of article? Is it specific? Particular? Is it universal?
Yes.
Yes, what? Yeah.
Yes, it
Thank you.
is.
You like Yogi Berra. Hey, you get to the fork in the road. Which one do you take? Yeah, take it. You know.
He is specific. He's talking about one person.
That's right. Okay, you know, okay. Did you see? We're gonna have him checked in a minute. He's probably got a weapon. Okay, so the man. But he uses the word man. There. In what sense might he mean that?
Mankind.
He could mean that. That would be valid, right? Again, you have to leave aside all of your modern stuff for a moment and enter the real world of what words mean. So, okay, it means humankind, humanity, whatever you want to call it. And it also can mean
The individual.
the individual who is,
Like Jesus.
yeah, he's a male. Yeah, well, yeah, Jesus, he's a male. He's a male. Okay? He's not androgynous. No, there's some people who are floating that, by the way, today. That's not surprising. So-called theological circles, where Jesus is androgynous. Bizarre. But okay. And behold the man.
What is the most used title that Jesus applies to himself and associates with in the New Testament, in the Gospel?
Son of Man.
The Son of Man.
Son of Man. $83 times.
Now, where is the one time in which the Son of Man appears in the Old Testament, which I've been over numerous times with you?
Under Isaiah.
Not Isaiah.
Ecclesiastes.
No. No. What did one lion say to the other?
Oh, Daniel.
Share the profits. No. Let's see. What did one lion say to the other? Share the profits. See, P-R-O-P-H-E-T, P-R-O-F-I-T. The lions were two capitalists. Okay.
Two cows.
Okay. Stop. Look, when you got to explain it, you're in trouble. Okay.
We blew it.
No, I did. Yeah, I did. I won't get into that. So, okay. Daniel. Either 7 or 8. And what does that Son of Man represent? When does the Son of Man come? The Son of Man. What is the Son of Man associated with?
End time.
What's that?
End times?
Very good. Yes, the end times. That's right. What do you mean the end times? What does that mean?
Fulfillment.
Fulfillment. Very good. Very good. That's right. It means fulfillment. And let's not get carried away, Betty. Betty's ready to give herself a PhD and go off to Harvard. Got a long way to go to catch up with. Yes, your shoulder's going to be bad. Catch up with Roy and our friend Mr. Sanders over here. So, the Son of Man. What is the fulfillment of this end time? What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, you said it, so what does it mean?
It's complete.
What is complete?
Judgment.
His
Judgment.
reason
It is
for
the time.
coming here.
It is a time of judgment, and it is the fulfillment of
Reason
wife.
for him coming here to
his wife. So
Salvation.
therefore, you should know this, being in the military, fulfillment of his wife,
Mission.
mission.
of his mission. Fulfillment of his mission. That's right. It is a time of judgment. Let's understand that. See, this idea that somehow, we forget about that. You know, with the Apostles' Creed, the Nicene Creed, and all of that. We skip over that part of it. He will come to judge the living and the dead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there will be a harvest time. The Son of Man appears. See? And it is the fulfillment. What is the fulfillment? What is his mission? In other words,
The salvation
I
of
can't
humanity.
imagine you getting troops or whatever, or even your sales force or your employees together, and you say, look, we have to stay to the mission, and you walk out the room. And they all kind of look at each other, and they say, okay, let's see, it's about 10 o'clock, let's go over to the snack bar. I fulfilled my mission because I was kind of hungry, so I'm going to eat. You do have to articulate the mission. So what's the mission?
Salvation of humanity.
How?
by God,
Okay.
Mercy.
making his son become human to atone for our sins.
And how does he do that?
With passionate
Because he
crucifixion.
gives his life.
The cross.
The cross, yes. Yeah, yeah. So therefore, behold the man. Pilate. Again, what is the irony?
He states something that he does not realize the truth in what he is stating.
Behold the man. He is saying something much deeper than he realized. Pilate means this Jesus character that I wish I didn't have on my hands because I've been trying to unload it. But I can't. He's like Gorilla Glue. You know, it gets on your hand and you can't get it off.
Behold the man. But at a deeper theological and spiritual and fulfillment level, behold the man. The end time is upon you. The fulfillment is hours away. It's here. It's coming. In the person of Jesus Christ. You see, behold the man. On a deeper level, whom is Pilate speaking to? Who's Pilate speaking to? Well, I mean, who's he got there?
Speaking of Jesus, but he's really talking to the Jews.
Yes, but he doesn't say the Jews. What does he say? What is he saying? What did he just say?
Behold the man.
Behold the man.
Yes, yeah.
Behold the man. And man stands for
Jesus.
humanity. Mankind, we're at man. Man. Okay, man. Humanity. Therefore, is it just the Jews?
No.
No. There's more to humanity than Jews. Okay, so get over yourself. There's Irish and there's Italians even, and things like that. We have all of those people. Okay. Now, behold the man. He's talking to Jesus, but Jesus is representing what?
Mankind.
Mankind, humanity. That's right. That's right. When a politician is standing there talking to an audience, but what happens sometimes when they have something really important to say?
They speak further out over the audience.
They speak over the audience. That's right. Politicians will speak to you, but they're speaking to you, but they want it to go out there. Politicians are famous for that, huh? For example, one-on-one. Maybe you've had this experience. Maybe you have. I hope you have, but if you have. I'm a politician, and here's old Jim, teach you to sit in front. So Jim is here, and I see Jim. Jim comes and wants to tell me, hi Jim, how you doing? Glad to see you. Yeah, good. How's everything? Good. Yeah, right. Good. Yeah. Call my office. That's all I'm doing. I'm scouting the territory to find out who's more interesting and important than him. He's an annoyance right now. He's clutching my hand and everything else, and counting my rings and fingers and everything else on there, But that's what you watch sometimes people who do that. Yeah. When everybody gives you the the Chicago typewriter, that's what they used to call the Tommy guns, the Chicago typewriter. Yeah. What they mean is, please shut up, I want to leave, and I don't care what you're saying because I'm not listening to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, behold the man, and specifically, he is speaking to whom? Specifically.
Jesus.
To Jesus. What condition would you say Jesus is in at that moment?
Beat up.
What's that?
Pretty beat up.
Yeah, pretty beat up. He's been what?
Near death scourged.
He's been scourged,
Thorns.
thorn, whipped.
Betrayed.
Carried the cross.
No, he hasn't got to the cross yet, Roy. Please.
Betrayed.
That's
Roy is so bloodthirsty. See? My God. We would have skipped all of that. We'd have just taken Jesus from the garden right up to Calvary. Anybody there or not? We don't care. Whoop, get him up there. My Lord. You gotta watch Roy. Not quite sure. But anyway, so we have that. He's been, what else?
Spit
Been
on.
mocked, spit on, beaten. Yep. And what else?
Cloaked in a robe.
He's been humiliated with a mocking robe, attire, and all of that. All of that. And why do you think Pilate did that?
To belittle him.
He's trying to,
He's speaking now to the crowd. I mean, what does the crowd
yeah,
yell?
trying to
What does the
deal
crowd
punishment
Like
without
crucified.
killing him.
Huh?
Well, he's trying to beat him up, make him look really suffering so that they'll say, well, that's enough. We're satisfied with that. You at least did something. All right, we're going to go away.
That's right. There's an element of trying to evoke some sympathy, some kind of empathy. The problem is he's speaking to a mob. He's speaking to a mob. What is the mob shouting?
Crucify.
Crucify. Crucify. Crucify. And what does Jesus represent on a deeper level in that condition, standing? What does Jesus represent? What is he representing at that moment, standing there, having gone through all of that before Pilate? That is the question.
The scapegoat.
The Jewish All faith. of us.
Scapegoat? Scapegoat for whom?
All of us.
Why? I didn't do
Because-
anything like that. You didn't do anything like that.
But he's there to give himself up for our sins.
Jesus is standing there in that condition to show the effects of sin. Sin. That what sin does. It disfigures. It destroys. It does all of those things that are abusive. And he has shown it. What it does on the soul now appears where?
His body.
On his body. In other words, I spoke to you one time, and it was on a couple of weeks ago, about the great movie, Picture of Dorian Gray, in which Dorian remains what?
Young.
Young and beautiful and attractive and all of these kinds of things on the outside, but inside that closet is what?
Monster. He's crumpled.
Is the what? What does he hide?
His true self is.
No, what does he have? It's a visible thing. What is he there? What doesn't he want anyone to see?
His
Himself.
decrepitness.
Himself where? He's hiding a thing that he's had made. What is it there? He's had his portrait made.
The picture.
He's had his portrait. My Lord. And when that person goes and takes the veil off that portrait, what do you see?
Him as an old man, a disfigured old man.
Him as demonic and hideous, the most ghastly looking. That represents what?
Sin.
Particularly, who does it represent?
His sin.
Huh?
His sin.
All of
Dorian
our
Gray's
sin.
sin.
His interior. Is the condition of his
His
soul.
soul.
This is
So, yeah.
what the outside appears so wonderful and attractive and vibrant and all of these wonderful things. But when you take that veil off where it is, there are the dead men's bones that Jesus talked about, the whited sepulchres, in the Gospel of Luke, when he confronts the Pharisees. Remember that? No. Okay. So, we hear that. Behold the man. Behold what sin has done.
can have debates about it, we can argue about it, which we're not going to do because it doesn't matter. But Mel Gibson, in his thing about Jesus, tried to capture that in that brutal crucifixion scene and so on and so forth. Some people said it was over the top, it was too much. Yes, of course it was, because we don't want to look at it. Of course not. Who does? Who does want to look at what sin does to us? Better not to look at it. Better look at Mel Gibson in one of his movies, wherever he goes, Pacific Highway, Pacific Coast. Anyway, whatever he does. So, Jesus, in that condition, is representing. And how did he get that way?
Through physical torture.
By whom? By the Romans. That says a lot of Romans would walk around resenting you for saying that. You want to blame all the Jews for the crucifixion? You want to blame all the Jews?
No,
What about all what you said, the Romans?
Roman guards.
Under whom?
Pilate.
Under Pilate. Interesting. Under Pilate. What is Pilate representing at that
Authority.
particular time? Huh?
Authority.
Yes. What is the third temptation of Jesus, according to Luke in the desert, before he begins the public ministry?
Throw yourself down, I'll give you all the power.
Throw yourself down in all the kingdoms. Because God has allowed Satan to take control of all of the earthly stuff. And when God's kingdom comes in the person of Jesus Christ, what is the response of the world to that?
We degrade it. We degrade it, we deface it, we destroy it.
In whom?
In Jesus.
The parable of his son. Remember the rich man, the man who owns everything and sends his son out? He sends the servants, he sends the servants to say that, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the servants are the prophets. What do? They beat him up.
They kill him.
Yeah, then they send some more and he kills them and finally says, oh, well, I'll send my son. Oh, they're gonna respect him. And they killed him because they said, if he lives and everything, we might not get any of the estate or anything like that, so we got to bump him off. And the Romans and the Pharisees, the religious authority and the political authority, will not allow anyone to grasp their power, their authority. He's the Son of God? No, can't say that, because if we say he's of God, we've got to change our act. He can't be a king, because that's a threat to Caesar. So what do you got to do?
Kill him.
Yeah, kill him. Eliminate him. That's the final solution. It's the final solution of the Nazis. Kill the Jews. That's still the final solution for the Hamas and those people. Exterminate Israel. Death to America. All of that. That's always the solution. It's always the solution. See? And what is at work here? What is at work here? Well, read that. Read that, please. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing if you think about it for a moment. Just think about it for a moment. Read it.
John?
Read 19:13 in John, please.
When Pilate heard these words, he brought Jesus out and seated him on the judge's bench in the place called the Pavement, in Hebrew, Gabbatha. It was preparation day for Passover, and it was about noon. And he said to the Jews, Behold your king.
Okay, now notice the word there again,
Behold.
behold, and we are back to being very what? Sanders, your favorite word? Ironic.
Ironic.
Yes, isn't he?
Irony.
He's saying, behold your king, right? That's quite ironic, isn't it? Pilate is saying more than isn't he saying more?
Yes.
Did he realize this? What does Pilate mean by behold your king?
What he's saying is, behold the person that's king of the Jews, but he doesn't realize when he says, behold your king, that his spiritualness, he's God's son.
Yes, he's talking about God, the kingdom of God, with its fullness, the universality. Okay, keep going.
They cried out, take him away, crucify him. Pilate said to them, shall I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar. Then he handed him over to them.
Now, can you wrap your head around that? Did you just hear what they said? Read that again real slow, please.
The chief priests answered, we have no king but Caesar.
Now, can you wrap your head around that one? Think about that for a moment. Who said this?
The chief priests, the people who represent God, right?
They've got no God.
Yes. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? It's like you saying, we don't have a president, we don't have anything. What we want is Karl Marx and Lenin and Stalin put back in, and let's get them. It's or let's get rid of the Pope and get somebody, just elect somebody we want. I don't know, the head of the Council of Churches or something. But, I mean, do you realize what do you think John is saying there? What do you see present there?
Anti-God.
Think about that. It's what?
Anti-God.
Okay, if it's anti-God, and that's the antithesis, what is the thesis?
Them. Their own power.
What is the thesis? It has to be positive. If the antithesis is get rid of God, get rid of Jesus and God, what then is the thesis? What is the positive?
God himself.
Yes. You have to affirm God, but they don't want that God. They want the God that they want, which Jesus does not represent. Therefore, they have to do what? They have to get rid of it.
Crucified.
Yes. So you see? So, go back to the third temptation of Jesus in the Gospel of Luke. And how does Jesus respond to Satan's temptation?
Don't
Well,
put
you
God
know
to the
that.
test.
What?
Don't put God to the test.
Okay. Yes. But, read that little end of it if you would, please. Gospel of Luke,
What chapter?
the temptation. 2 or 3, something around there. Let's see.
Jesus said to him in reply,
Chapter 4. Go ahead.
Jesus said to him in reply, it also says, you shall not put your Lord your God to the test.
Put your Lord, your God, to the test. That's quite a test. Because what does the next sentence say?
When the devil had finished every temptation, he departed from him for a time.
For a time. You've just been introduced to the time. And there's going to be another time. And that time is when? Very good. On Good Friday. Come down off the cross and save yourself. If you are the Messiah. Get off of there. Well, what is the difference between that and the 3 temptations of the devil in the desert at the beginning of the ministry?
Because
None.
this is the end of his ministry.
Yes, because it's the fulfill. You see the loop? That's what I'm getting you to think in terms of trying to make that loop. To make that loop. Here is the time. What seeming victory Satan won in Eden. Okay? And it seems like a victory. After all, the tenants got kicked out. They got evicted. And you see what happens. Great. Goes to the temptations. Who wins in the temptation? Jesus. On the cross. There. Who? There's a temptation. There's a temptation. Who wins?
Jesus.
Jesus.
Jesus wins. Now let's say a word about that. Who are the 2 people involved in the scene here? The 2 people. No,
The devil and
the one you're looking at. What 2 people?
Jesus and Satan.
No. Satan is not a people, not a person.
upon.
Pilate. And?
Jesus.
Yeah, it takes 2 to tango. Okay? So you have Jesus and Pilate. Jesus as the protagonist, and Pilate is the antagonist. In their conversation all along, Pilate and Jesus, who has the power?
Pilate.
So the people voting for Pilate. Everybody votes for Pilate?
No, I'll vote for Jesus.
He has the worldly power.
Well, after that bit of nudging, you all must be Democrats. You don't get to vote twice. Forget I said that. I said I'd be up on another charge. So, with Jesus, we got some Johnny come lately, but okay. It's a question of power. What is power? Some people have a notion that is power a bad thing?
No.
I hope not. I assume when you wake up in the morning, you hope you have the power to get out to bed. That's a power. I hope you have the power to do your work, if you're employed, or you have some task to do, whatever. So power in and of itself is a sign of life. Dead things don't have power. That's why they're dead. That's the way that works. So, okay. So power in and of itself is not a bad thing. In fact, power is a good. It's a good. Now, we have here a question of power. Now, you have power. How would you define power in the abstract or the form? How would you talk about power?
Given to you by authority.
No. How would you talk about power in the abstract? Give me a definition of an understanding of power.
Control.
Well, it's ability.
Ability.
Ability to what?
Well, in this case, it's the ability
No.
To accomplish
Give it to me
something.
in general.
to make a decision, to make a
Correct.
choice,
The ability
to choose.
to choose some end,
Some
which
action.
is a goal, purpose, action. And this power can also be negative, right?
Correct.
It can be to refrain from. I want you to smoke a marijuana cigarette. And you say, I'm not doing that. No, get out of here. I don't want to do that. Or, hey, do you like a nice slice of this Boston cream pie? Well, no, I'm on my 15th diet, and I'm broken. You got a 14. Now get away from me, Satan. You know, for some, that's the maximum, temptation. Heaven forbid, the big sin is to gain an ounce. Heaven forbid, that would never happen. Okay, so the power can either be plus or minus. To seek as well as to refrain. But it's an ability. Towards some goal end or away from that, which by itself can be a positive. I am refraining from this because smoking marijuana is against the law. Used to be anyway. I'm not eating this food. I refrain because it's bad for my diet. If I eat this kind of food, I'm going to pay for it tomorrow, or whatever it is. My doctor doesn't want me to. It's detrimental to my health. So I have that ability. It can also be, I'm going to study to make sure I do well on the test, that I pass the test, whatever. That's a positive. So this kind of thing. Now, you also have the power, when you exercise it, or the ability to, or for, but you also have power over. You have power over. Your boss, some people don't think they have bosses. Your supervisor, your boss, has authority or power over you. I want this done at 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock comes and you don't have it done. I'll get to it tomorrow. Oh, you don't have to worry about it. All right, Jim? Good luck in the unemployment. That's it. That's it. I have authority over you. Parents have authority over their children. They have power over their children. At some point, it comes down to, because I say so. That's why. And as long as you're living under my roof, you obey my rules. You know? Yes. You know? Once my niece, before she became sane, she was a student at one of the Catholic high schools, and she was a junior. I think she was a junior. And a number of the girls at this particular high school, they were going on a spring break down to Florida. And she came home and announced to my brother and his wife that she was going to spring break down in Florida, and that she was going to stay in this condo that the parents of one of the girls had. But the parents could not be there. The girls could be there. So my brother and his wife informed her that she will not be going to Florida for spring break. If you want We can go to Biloxi or someplace like that, and you can sit under the same sun. It'll be at a different time because of the way the earth rotates, but it'll be there, the same sun, and you can get the water, and you can get burned and get bitten by jellyfish and all that right there in Alabama, Mississippi, just like you can in Florida, but you're not going. Well, of course, my niece announced that the parents should be reported to child protection, and was looking in the yellow pages for civil liberties union representation and all of this sort of stuff. And she announced that she was going. So Kathy says to my niece, well, that's your decision. Yes, I'm going. Okay? So that evening, when my niece came home, because I think they were leaving the next day, something like that, on this trip. There, outside of her room in the house, were her suitcases, her belongings, and all of that was right there, nicely packaged, all of that kind of stuff. And my niece, what is all this? What is it? Well, that's your belonging. That's your stuff. Well, what do you mean? Well, you told me that you're going to Florida on spring break. No, I don't know where you're coming back to, but it ain't here. And if you want, we'll ship it to you, or we'll put it outside. But you're not coming back here, because you've indicated to us that as your parents and are responsible for you, as long as you're here, you're not gonna, doesn't matter. So you're just gonna kind of slum it here until something else. No, it doesn't work that way. So you go to your Florida, and maybe while you're over there, you can make arrangements of where you want to send, and we'll send it. And they went to bed. Well, needless to say, my niece didn't go to Florida.
She saw the line.
Did not go to Florida.
She saw it.
And they were determined that no, because then what's next? What's next? What other thing now is she going to engage in? Well, what we say means absolutely nothing. We're not asking her. We'll go to Mississippi, or we'll go to one of those places if you want. Have a nice time. We'll even rent a room or something like that, whatever, right by the beach and all that kind of stuff with us. And you can bring some friends if they want to come. But we're going to be there. And their family and their parents knew about it and say it's okay and all that. And not some condo unsupervised by anybody. And so on. No, that's not happening. And of course, for a while, let's say things were icy. But they would prefer to have her icy than to be on ice in a mall somewhere. I know it doesn't happen until it happens. And so none of these things ever happen until they happen. Okay, so you have authority, okay, and a power. You have those who are in and of power. See any difference between being in power and of power?
Yeah. One, you may be just in power because of your position, but of is the one you really have power over. You may not realize it, but just like Jesus, when we talked about power, I picked Jesus because he said, "You don't take my life, I give my life." He elected not to reveal himself, so he held back that thing. So it's,
That's right. Very good. In power means you hold an office or a title. And that can be totally and completely separate from you as a person. You simply have, we call it a figurehead. Or a person who simply grabs power. They're in it, and they keep it by force. But let's take a church position. You have somebody who is in charge of something, an office, something, whatever. And nobody can stand this person. But they have the position. They sign the checks. They tell you what to do. Okay? But, when you really want to find out something, you never go to them. You may go to the janitor, the maintenance engineer. You may go to the cook. Two people you never alienate. Cook and the maintenance people. If you do, you're insane. Don't worry about anybody up to shoot. The two people. Food and the electricity. That's very important when you go anywhere. And you go to them, and they are of authority. People recognize them. They don't need a title. Jesus says, you don't need titles. The Gentiles seek those things, and they lord it over each other. But as for you, let no one call you king, whatever you want. Because the greatest is the one who serves. For I am in your midst as one who serves. The washing of the feet. See? Peter, oh no, not me, no, you can't do that. And Jesus says, if I don't wash your feet, you can't have anything to do with me. You know, I used to ask the seminarians, are you good at washing feet? And if the answer was no, then you ought to think about another career. Better yet, you better think if you have a vocation. Because if you can't wash feet, not me, I suggest you go read John chapter 13. That's what I suggest. We're not here to be served. Yeah. Yeah, there's a difference. There's a world of difference between being in authority and of authority. You know that in your own life. You can have all the titles you want and all your testimonials and all this kind of stuff. Nobody comes to you for really anything. Often, one of the most important people in the school is the athletic people, the coaches. Those are the ones who really talk to the students, especially with their teams, stuff like that. They go to their coaches more than they go to their counselors, whatever that means, and so on and so forth. Pilate is in authority. He's in authority. He's the governor. We can get him out of here right now. Pilate didn't have to go through any of this stuff. But he killed them all along. Get the troops out. And those troops, when they got out, they got out. There was no cooling off period or this or that. When you caused the disturbance, they were coming, and that was it. So let's understand that. He's in authority. And the question of authority comes up. Jesus is silent. He's silent. Financial. Good mafia guy, Don't talk to the cops, don't rat on your friends. Okay. What does Pilate say?
I have the power to release you or crucify you.
Yep, that's right.
You answer to me.
Notice what he said. He said, I have the power. What does Jesus respond? Pay attention to what? No,
No, I knew you were going to say that. No.
Doesn't answer it first.
He does answer. What does he say? What does he say to Pilate? Pilate says, I have the power to release you or the power to crucify you. Let you go. I can do whatever I want. What does he say?
You would have no power over me.
That's a bad translation. Terrible translation. The Greek for that is authority. You would have no authority. And there's a world of difference between. Notice Pilate is talking in terms of power. That's his native language. That's his whole thing. How many troops you got? How many people are you going to put in the street? Jesus says, you would have no authority over me. Why? Why?
If it had not been given to you from above.
You were not given from above. Not given from above. Authority is moral. Power has to do with force. See what I'm saying? You see that or no? Yeah. No authority. That little shift of words there. See, that's why it's so important to pay attention to the text. These subtle shifts and changes, they have deep, deep meaning. So you should always go to the text. Always to the text. So, it says there that you would have none because the authority, all authority, and St. Paul will say that in his pastoral letter to Timothy. We should pray for those in authority, the kings and all of that kind of stuff, because all authority comes from God. We should pray for them, which is not a bad thing. You know, we're good at complaining. I do. I complain a lot. But I wonder how much I pray for them. Yeah, pray for Joe Biden, pray for Kamala Harris, pray for the whole bunch. Because if you don't care about, for a selfish reason, if they fail, we fail. So, I mean, on that level, it's stupid. Gee, I hope they fail. What is wrong with you? I don't want them to fail. If they get in and all of this kind of stuff, I want them to make a disaster of it. Really? What is wrong with you? Why would you want that? I don't. I think it's a bad choice, or I think it's a wonderful choice. But either way, when the whole thing is over, pray God that they succeed. Because their success is ours, our children. That's it. Look, all of these things are possible. It doesn't mean we're not critical. It doesn't mean that we don't have differences of opinion. Of course not. I'm talking about being robots. But we do it with civility, with a kind of civic friendship. Granted, that's the problem. It's become so coarse today, so divisive, so angry, bitter, personal, vindictive. That's the atmosphere. But that's the problem. So Jesus says, you have no authority over me. Father didn't give it to you. Ultimately comes, there's always a transcendent there, especially in the Gospel of John. Now, to conclude this, I ask you to relate this to Nietzsche. We come now to the tip of the arrow, or the spear. Why would Nietzsche choose a title like Ecce Homo for his autobiography, given the fact, being a disciple of Feuerbach, pronounces God dead and says you better get on with the task of killing him, because that's our only salvation, is if we kill off God. And why would he take this, you think? Can anybody tell me anything about the biography of Nietzsche? Which I asked you to look at. Which obviously you did. But that's okay. I forgive you. But I don't forget. So, so, yes, but you don't go home. What do you know about Nietzsche? His childhood.
About his childhood, he finished his book right before he had his episode. He went totally.
Yeah, this is the last book he wrote. But what about as a child?
His father died when he was 4 years old.
What kind of
He came
condition
from a
was he in?
pretty good background.
What kind of condition was he in?
He
He was a Theodore Roosevelt, vibrant, active, typical German kind of kid.
was sickly.
How do you know that? Because I said that, you just assumed the other thing.
He had all kind of problems.
Very good, that's right.
He had problems, and then his background, according to what we read today, is questionable as far as his choices in life. And well, he caught the syphilis.
Well,
There's
that was
questions as to where that came from.
yeah, but most attribute because it affected his brain.
Yes.
It affected his brain, not his genital areas.
No.
That's right. Seems to have been from a virus or a bacteria. But again, who knows? Who knows? But anyway, that's right. That was his last book that he wrote. And just before that, he had written The Antichrist. He was sickly. He was puny. He was always kind of chronically ill. And yet, he embraces a philosophy based upon what? What is at the heart of his philosophy? 3 words.
He doesn't believe in God.
No.
Love is immoral.
No. Does he accentuate the intellect or the will? I put it on the board a few minutes ago.
The will.
The will, yes, the will.
No.
The will.
The will not to believe.
The will to what? I put it on the board, huh?
The will not to believe
The
in
will
God.
to power. Very good. Very good. The will to power. Why would that fit in?
Well, when he said ecce homo,
Now, why would it
saying
fit in
behold,
biographically?
because he's fulfilling himself.
Why would it fulfill him biographically, having been sickly and all of this kind of stuff?
Perhaps he thinks if there were a God, then he wouldn't be experiencing this sickness.
Psychiatrists call it reaction formation. A reaction formation is the affirmation of all that you are not and projecting it as to something that is good and wonderful and terrific and ideal and that you want to have and want people to believe you have. So, what was the physical condition of Nietzsche as a child? Sickly. What is his philosophy?
Power.
Will to power. So therefore, what kind of people would he admire?
Powerful people.
Strong, powerful, dominating, conquest,
All things he was.
all of that, yes. the preacher that gets in the pulpit,
Brimstone.
yes, always talking about sex, about homosexual people, and this kind of people, and those kind of people, always talking about it. You can always count on it. And then we find out, he's a frequent flyer to Las Vegas, and he's known more than Robert De Niro there. Or we find out all these things about him. Or he's always talking about honesty. And we found out he had scammed with what? The church funds. As Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the more and more he touted his honesty, the more and more I counted the silverware. Very good point. If you're an honest person, you usually don't go around talking about how honest you are. You just are an honest person. When you walk around and you have to put forth like an alphabet soup thing behind your name with all your initials and everything else, you know, DS, MA, PhD, and no JOB. But anyway, I would never, we never get to that point. But you got to put all of that. But you can tell if a person is intelligent, or at least has both oars in the water, etc. But they just talk. Don't you find it annoying when you're being introduced to somebody and they say, "Oh, let me introduce you to Lisa," and then I go on and on about where she went to school, what kind of position she's holding, what she has accomplished. In other words, I'm not meeting Lisa. I'm meeting her resume. And I often tell people, look, you're introducing me or my resume. I don't want to hear all that. Don't go into all of that stuff. You see these obituaries sometimes where a dead person can't do anything about it. But you see all of this stuff in the paper. My God. I'm surprised they didn't die 40 years ago from exhaustion from all of this stuff. I mean, if a fourth of it is true, my God, you're going to tell me they survived this stuff? It's amazing to me. No, and so he adapts this philosophy, which he himself always struggled with his health, tuberculosis, and all of this kind of stuff. The will to power. Also, his father was a preacher. And you get sometimes a rebellion against that, regardless of the age. We have all that going on. And you have all of that. Now, the will to power, at the heart of this philosophy, who are the two principles in our discussion up here? Pilate and Jesus. Whom do you think would be the likely candidate for being a hero to Nietzsche?
Pilate.
Pilate, huh? Well, if that's the case that you've blurted out, why does he take behold the man? Why didn't he take behold Pilate? A life of Pilate. Why? I don't see why he wouldn't be. Well, ask yourself, why does Nietzsche spend so much of his energy, his time, his intellectual effort, fighting against whom?
God.
Yes, specifically Jesus. You don't fight that hard against something that either doesn't amount to a hill of beans, or as Rick says, in a crazy mixed up world, if you didn't somehow wrestle with it and you are believing it. Most of us in here have not engaged in a great debate as to whether mermaids and unicorns exist. Some people may. Don't get me wrong. Some people might. I understand that. We have some people who want to argue about the flat earth and the round earth, and all that. That's fine. They don't have oars and they have no motor or boat. They're just in the water somewhere. Okay. But most of us don't engage in unicorns and mermaids. We don't do that. Why? Because it is totally, completely useless. It makes no sense, and therefore I'm not even going to. We're going to have a debate tonight over the existence of unicorns. Now you may have some people go to that out of curiosity to see how just crazy this can be, or they think it's a spoof or some kind of satire or something like that. But to actually present that as real, it is absurd on its face. It's absurd. But if we want to talk about the existence of God and his science proving that God does not exist, that might draw more of a crowd, especially if you have people who are known, people who have been engaged in this. They may have been engaged in a public controversy in the academic world and in the popular world. So you may get McAllister Auditorium at Tulane filled with people, as they used to do in that wonderful series, Discovery, which I used to go to, terrific series. They used to get all these people from around the country and the world come and talk about for 6 Saturdays during the summer, 6 Friday nights during the summer. Well-known people all over the place. Terrific. I couldn't wait to go. It was terrific to watch them in action and how they handled themselves and everything on different sides of issues. It was terrific. We don't have that anymore, unfortunately. But anyway, so why this seems, has the syphilis gotten to his brain? Is that the problem? But he wrote this before he became incapacitated. Ecce homo. And all of you have said that the likely candidate would be Pilate. But he chooses for his autobiography, Ecce homo. Behold the man, which is what Pilate says to Jesus and to the crowd, about Jesus to the crowd. Why? It seems like a strange thing. Seems like it's just a strange thing. If this is your gasoline, in your philosophy, motor, a battery, or your little electric charge. I'm sorry, I better get up to date. Why would you? Why might you do that? I mean, it's a strange thing. It's a strange thing. On the face of it, because I agree with you. I mean, just looking at it on the face of it, I'd say that's easy. I mean, that's stupid. Pilate, of course. Because after all, Jesus do end on the cross. And Pilate goes back to Mrs. Pontius Pilate, who was not keen on the idea and tried to dissuade him. She's a saint. She became a saint. Believed to have been martyred by Caesar. Because she tried to get the Christian religion accepted in the kingdom. People don't know that. Yeah. She's a saint. Very highly honored in the Eastern Church, Eastern Catholic Church. Why might she? What is wrong with him? If there's anything wrong, I don't know. Maybe there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, I mean, you can take the other side and say, if you write a book, your title, you want to hook something to catch the people's eye, and so if his target audience, he wants to convert the people that have a little religion, that's a phrase that would catch them more than the word Pilate.
Maybe he succumbed to that which he fought so bad
I'm
against.
sorry?
Maybe he finally surrendered to that which he fought so hard against.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he saw
Maybe
himself
because Pilate mocked Jesus, and Nietzsche is also mocking Jesus by saying, "Behold the man."
maybe he saw
That's
himself in
interesting. That's interesting. So the mocking continues. Is there any identification between Nietzsche and Jesus? What is Jesus? Somebody told me something. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. But didn't somebody tell me something here about the condition of Jesus when he was before Pilate? Or was I wrong, or what?
No.
What was it?
He was tortured. He was demeaned. He was ridiculed.
Uh-huh.
He was
Uh-huh. Yeah, he's a mess.
yeah.
Uh-huh. And didn't somebody tell me, I think Roy, didn't you, in a moment of enlightenment, didn't you tell me something about his condition as a young person?
Nietzsche. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He
And
was
what?
sickly.
He was sick.
Sickly.
Mm-hmm. And he was, and if you're sickly and you have all of those infirmities, what kind of condition are you in?
A weakened condition.
You're weakened. You're weak. And if you're weak, you what?
You have no power.
Yeah, well, you need it. You need people. You need this. Jesus is in what condition before Pilate? He's needy. I mean, he's needy. I mean, Pilate rubs it in his face, doesn't he? You want to talk? You better talk, because I can spring you or I can crucify you. It's interesting. He sees that. So he sees in his condition all of the things that he what? In Jesus, he sees all of the things that he sees in himself, which he what? Which he what?
He would support.
He would support?
Abhor it.
Oh, abhor, yes. He would hate it.
Yeah.
He would hate it. And so he embraces a philosophy of
Jesus
Will to power.
Will to
will to power. Will to power. He embraces it because he finds it so abhorrent. Right?
Yes.
Reaction formation, we're
Yeah.
going back to that, okay? So we have that. May I suggest to you, and we'll stop, is that Nietzsche takes that title because, believe it or not, he is totally and completely jealous of Jesus Christ. How can he be jealous of Jesus Christ? Because Nietzsche, like Pilate, cannot understand the power of the powerless and cannot understand the weakness of those in power. Now roll that around your head for a moment, okay, before you begin screaming and yelling that doesn't make sense and it's nuts. And, you know, I think the infirmity that Nietzsche had has gone to my cerebellum. The power of the powerless and the weakness of the powerful. Can we agree that the power equation between Jesus and Pilate is totally and completely in the favor of Pilate?
Sure.
Yes. Right?
Yep.
Totally. Jesus is not going to let Pilate go, right?
Correct.
So it's it's a very unequal balance, isn't it? They're not there as equals in the power game, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna clear, other than, like a horse in the Mardi Gras parade. Okay, so we hear that. Okay, so we hear that imbalance there. Yet, if we look at the dynamic of the whole situation as a whole, who is really powerless?
Pilate.
Why? How?
Because he's got to crucify him now.
He doesn't want
Okay,
to. He's been backed into
His
a
power
corner.
is almost like instantaneous or something like that. It's like the saying, "You fall on your sword." I mean, he's got a decision to make. Am I going to follow my sword on this one? Sooner or later, he's going to end up.
Jesus got to.
And he's already sent up a few trial balloons by scourging him and whatever. And now it's come to, I got to kill
I
this
gotta
guy.
kill this
Exactly.
He's got a boss and he's got a mob.
Exactly.
He's stuck in the middle.
Exactly. And he's been looking how to get out of this thing from day one. He tried to shove it back on them from the beginning.
Yes.
Look, this is a religious issue. Get out of here. You all take care of it. I ain't got nothing to do with this. But then they hit him with but he wants to be king.
Take your
I
place.
can't believe I got to put up with this. I can't. Oh, God, why did they bring that up? Now I got a problem. Because, as the people tell him, and the leaders, we only got one king. And that is
Caesar. No friend of Caesar.
What's that?
Is no friend of Caesar.
That's exactly. And let's see if I can find it, but I probably can't. But let's look at. Let's see. I want to get to the one. I'm going to find it. Bear with me a moment.
12, chapter 19, 12.
Let's see. It's oh, come on. Let's see. Look at Mark. Might be in Mark. Yeah, should have this Mark. It's my fault. See. Oh, goodness, come on. Try to stay with me. Oh, goodness, I'm still not gonna find this. There it is. Let's see. Oh, come on. This is very rare.
anyway, just have to take my word for it.
We will.
I'll have to look for it. When he is looking to release Jesus, the people cry out about the kingship, and he uses a very, very specific thing there, and it's in capital letters. If you release him, you are no friend of Caesar. That's a specific designation, and it's in capital letters.
It's 1912. John 1912.
Yeah, I just read it.
Well, the only one in the room evidently who didn't is me. That was looking at the other place. So, everyone, Jesus answered him, "You would have no power over me or authority over me, when not given to you from above." Pilate tried to release him, but the Jews cried out, "If you release him, you are not a friend of Caesar." Friend of Caesar is a very old designation, and it's also used by the mafia. When you introducing somebody just from the beginning, even before they're a prospect. Person comes and you say, "He's a friend of mine." That means I vouch for him. He's clean. In other words, he's not connected to the cops, he's not undercover, he's not any of this kind of stuff. Which means you're responsible for it. Now, when you get in, and you're a soldier or something like this, then this is Frankie. He's one of us. That's different. Cosa Nostra. Cosa Nostra. Our thing. That's what Cosa Nostra means. Our thing. So that's not them. Closed group there, and so on and so forth. This friend of Caesar, that's a high status. And if you notice, it's in capital letters there. Friend of Caesar. And if you were not called a friend of Caesar, you risked execution because you were an insurrectionist and you were looking to undermine him. So they hit him with that. So that goes back to the weakness, his weakness. See, people in power, their weakness is often the fear of losing their power. The people who are powerless, what they have to lose? Who's going to do it? Look, you can torture me and you can kill me. Then, okay, but that's it then. You've done it all. I mean, all of you, well, not all of you, but at some point, most of you in here will reach an age where you really don't care anymore because it doesn't matter. They've done everything they can do to you.
That's true.
You know, like when you retire from that job you hate, I don't care what happened, I don't care what they say, or if you're a day away. I want that person to come give me some guff today. Come on. Why? Because I don't care. I don't care, because tomorrow I am free as a bird, and I'm out of here, and that's it. You know, at a certain point, those who think they have their thumb on you, at a certain point, they don't. And it's liberating. And those who often are in power, they live with a certain fear or paranoia that it's going to be taken away. The Pharisees were afraid. Jesus, think about it. Jesus, an itinerant preacher from nowhere, from a background that was very suspect. The mother's birth was kind of strange. The father was, and all of this kind of stuff. He didn't have a synagogue, a temple that recognized him. He traveled with look at the bunch he traveled with. My Lord, come on. You wouldn't invite him to the fair here, probably. None of that kind of stuff.
you know, well, maybe if they had enough shekels, you would. But anyway,
30
I
silver
guarantee
pieces
you
will
that.
take it.
30
silver pieces.
Yeah, we do it. You can put inflation in.
Yeah.
So,
Might need
but you hear that. See, and but people who basically don't really have a whole bunch of stuff and so on and so forth, and they get by, there's a certain liberation to that. You know, I'm not worried about the scratch on my new car. My Toyota is fine. And when it runs till it runs, and I park it, here's a spot I'm going to park it. And yes, the shopping cart may hit it, and I'm not going to be happy about it, but you know what? I'm not going to go bonkers about it. I'm not going to go crazy. You know, so it's kind of, there's a kind of liberation there. You go to the airport and you see some people going on a trip, and they take their house with them. You ever see it? They need more captains than they got in the Marine Corps. More captains than they got in the Marine Corps. You know? And they got these sky caps. And they got all of these. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to Shreveport for a couple of weeks. Is there anything in your house? Well, yeah. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Well, can you imagine that out? You know, one of the great things of living simply, I'm not talking about being destitute and all of that, is that there's a certain freedom with that. There's a certain kind of movement and breathing and mobility that you have, and you're not weighed down. So anyway, Nietzsche could never understand how this powerless Jesus had so much power. Because at this very moment, we really don't have a whole bunch of disciples of Pilate running around. We don't have people worshiping Pilate. We don't talk about the resurrection of Pilate, or Caesar, or any of the others. But you got a whole bunch of people who say that Jesus Christ is Lord, is risen, have given their life down through history for Jesus is Lord, like that. From this tiny little mustard seed of a crib in Bethlehem, because there was no room in the inn, to this. And that's not the work of God. I'll leave it to you to decide. But Nietzsche could never wrap his head around. How was that? So this identification, ecce homo, behold the man. This man who is beaten, abused, defiled, mocked, everything. Look at this. Look at this. There is that bafflement at the mystery. And so, behold the man. Behold the man. This powerless, itinerant son of a carpenter from Nowheresville. Look. And Pilate, a footnote to history. If it wasn't for the Bible, we wouldn't even know who he was. Frankly, we wouldn't. Because being sent to Jerusalem as the governor was a punishment by his father-in-law. Because they thought he was no good. And he had been some fooling around in Rome, and so on and so forth. So this was a punishment. He thought he was going to go zip right up the hierarchy of Rome. No. He got sent there. And the last thing he needed was another bad report. Because then he'd be out on patrol, wherever the legions went. He wouldn't have any cushy praetorium. The only reason he became governor, even that, was because of his wife. So you're talking about where the pressure was? There's no pressure on Jesus. There's a lot of pressure on old Gubby Boy. You know? Because, I mean, his position is precarious. And you realize the power that people have then? You can have all the power you want. Somebody says to you, no, I'm not doing it. I don't care. I'm going to fire you. I don't care. Do you realize how shrunk you have become? Do you realize what I don't care? Or the person who says, I'm not doing it. What you going to do about it? And as soon as you threaten, as soon as you do any of that stuff, you're in a weakened position. Because you've already told them what you're going to do. And you better do it. And do you really have the will to follow through on it? And accept the consequences of that? You see, because there may come a time in which you think you solved the problem, but people above you think you're the problem. Because they don't want to keep dealing with it. You know, teacher used to come, or principal, I'd go around, look at the schools, and they'd show me their handbook. About this big. Tell me how wonderful a school is. I said, it can't possibly be that wonderful. If it was that wonderful, you can't possibly need a handbook this big. That's impossible. Because I'd be willing to bet nobody knows what's in this handbook. And if they do, they don't know every bit of it. No. And then tell me about how, the tough standards, everything, only, like in this one class, only 10% of the children pass this test. And you're okay with that? You're okay with that? Let me understand this. 80% or 90% of the children flunk. 10% pass. And you think that's something to brag about. So this is a school of failure that rewards failure. And what? Just takes for granted success is 10% of 90%. I don't know how you still open.
That's why some of them aren't.
Huh?
That's why some of them aren't.
Right, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. Because you see, it's one thing to have all these tests where we hold children accountable. That's all fine and wonderful. But what about what's going on in the classroom? It's the culture of the school. Also, what kind of home environment do they have? All these children don't go home to tutors and all kind of electronics and all kind of caring parents who are there all over the place, giving them this. A lot of them come from very bad backgrounds. Very bad backgrounds. So don't give me this idea, well, we all start from the equal point. Really? I don't know what world you live in, but that's simply empirically not true. That's empirically not true. And so, anyway. But, all right. Well, next week I am going to begin with, I want to give you 10 summary points with Socrates, and then we're going to go into Plato on the way to Aristotle, and then point out the sections in the Catechism that we've looked at and you can follow through on, and also the ones coming up. Because as we move into, if there is a 2025, we want to move into the section on sacraments because of its relationship to the Catholic imagination as it differs from the Protestant imagination, especially in terms of sacraments and sacramentality. There's a whole cosmology involved there. And also in terms of some of the spirituality, without getting too abstract. We're up in Hegel's ether level. But we want to look at some of the more feet on the ground. It was I'll end with this. It was a wonderful, some of you rolled your eyes Pope Francis, I know who some of you don't like for whatever reason, anyway, avoiding nonsense, but I always have to say that because it annoys me so much. But anyway, they just appointed a whole bunch of new red hats, cardinals. And, well, that's what they did. I mean, I don't know. That's what they did. What do you want to call them? Blue hats? No, they get red hats. Okay, so, last week or the week before, he met with them, because it's going to be sometime next year, and they'll actually get enthroned, or whatever they get. And he said, I want to recommend to you 3 things, you all, that have been appointed cardinals in the church, so-called princes of the church. No, 3 things. Keep your eyes and your head up. Keep your hands folded. And keep your feet walking without shoes. And these are future princes, so they're entitled to it. He said, let me explain. He said, I want you to keep your eyes open and up, because never lose sight of the one you serve, Jesus Christ, who came to serve and not to be served. Keep your hands folded, because you will never accomplish anything without prayer. And walk always with no shoes on, so that you keep your feet next to the earth to find out what real people struggle with, the challenges of real people, every single day. Beautiful advice. Not simply for princes of the church, but for every Christian, every person. Upward, prayerful, and keep your feet on the ground so that you don't lose touch with the reality of real people who don't have all the wonderful cushy things you have as a prince of the church. It's very important. Very important. Good advice. Let's end with a prayer, please. If that's all right. And thank you for your patience. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Almighty and gracious God, O Holy Spirit, please to dwell in us. Thank you for this time together. Please help us not simply to learn about you, Lord, but let us grow in knowledge